So I'm gonna give it to you straight. Hypno is bad. There's basically no reason to use this thing competitively, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I like the thing and today it's gonna become a fast sweeper. When you're looking at its stats, you're thinking, wow, now that bad boy's got some special defense. Base 73 special attack and 67 speed is certainly not doing it any favors, but it's gonna have to work. So here's the plan. We're gonna run max special attack and speed EVs with a timid plus speed nature, because once we get off a Trailblaze, at +1 speed, Hypno's now faster than Darkrai, for example, who is rocking base 125 speed. Problem is, we also now need to get off some nasty plots to make its special attack usable. Terra Fairy can help us defensively, especially if we get in front of some special attackers for easy setup, but then if we do get the opportunity, we can also now bop some people with Terra boosted Dazzling Gleam for coverage, along with Stab Psychic for our best damage. It's not going to be easy or really worth it, but sometimes you got to bust out the Hypno and steal some W's instead of kids. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public service announcement to leave your children inside where they are safe. Hypno is stepping out, and the kids are about to get napped up. Hypno's lore is really something. But we're gonna show some love to the weird guy anyway, because I do think it's actually kind of an interesting Pokemon. If this sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes you a second, and if you don't, I will catch you in the berry forest, and you will regret it. Now, before we get into the video, I wanna give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Arena Club. All right, so some of you may know that I've always been pretty big into collecting Pokemon cards, along with buying and selling graded ones. And if you're like me, you may be interested to hear about how Arena Club is changing the hobby with their original slab packs along with no fee auctions. Whether you're chasing grails or flipping graded slabs, Arena Club makes it super easy to collect cards that you love. With slab packs, you can rip a pack for as low as 25 bucks and hit on a card that's worth insane amounts, with every pack having the chance to hit grails that are at least 20 times the price of the pack. Plus, unlike buying regular packs, you know you're at least going to get a grade-worthy card. With Arena Club being the most trusted name in the game, they offer full transparency by showing you each of the cards possible to be pulled from each pack, so you know exactly what you're getting into in terms of what's available with the odds before you buy. I personally tried this out and pulled myself a Crown Zenith Full Art Pikachu and a Gem Mint 10, and with a chance to pull a grail like the Japanese Poncho Magikarp Pikachu, I figured it might as well be worth a shot. I've got to admit, the process is really fun, and I love things like this that are changing up the hobby, and Arena Club's doing it in a cool and interesting way. You get the excitement of seeing your pull immediately, and then the slab's added to your personal showroom and available for listing in an auction, trading, or just getting your physical cards sent to you in the mail. The packs may be digital, but the cards are the real deal. With each slab pack, Arena Club will also make you an instant offer for your card based on fair market value. You can accept it on the spot. It's simple, fast, and risk-free, and a great way to get value if you pull something you weren't necessarily looking for. And if this sounds interesting to you, right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/Haydunn and use code Haydunn. And with that, let's get back into the battle. All right, so as my opponent decides to lead off with the Great Tusk, I have myself a little moth who is intimidating. Pinhead Larry comes in, and somehow the non-threatening little moth is in fact scary enough to drop the attack by one stage, and I figure at this point they're probably just a Stealth Rock lead. I am going to set up my Sticky Web, which is great because while they do have the opportunity to Rapid Spin them away, they're going to have to click that and then just face the wrath of a super effective Air Slash. Now, they do go for a Fire Fang at -1 attack, does just do a little over half, which is sweet, and then I figure, well, they probably just go for a Rapid Spin here. I'm just going to click an Air Slash and see. It does have a chance to knock this thing out. It turns out we get, I think it's about a 60% shot for that to knock that thing out. And we do get the knockout. So Masquerain is always out here providing more value than I think it's going to. I'm mostly just here to, set up some Sticky Web, but then also maybe come back and intimidate some stuff later. As they now decide to bring in the Pecha Run, I figure surely they just go for a Malignant Chain here. And what I can do is bring in Bastiodon. I would like to have my Stealth Rock up, and also I can bring this thing in. You will not be turning me into a Poison Puppet or whatever freak shit these things are into. They do go for the Malignant Chain. Does not affect the wall face, and at this point, while I'm a little bit worried about a Nasty Plot, the reason why I'm not super afraid is because while I have Sturdy intact, I could then just Metal Burst it as they attack. They decide instead to just go for the Shadow Ball. It does get this Spadef drop, does break my Sturdy, which is unfortunate. But as I set up my Stealth Rock, I figure if they don't Nasty Plot there, they probably aren't going to go for it. I'm just going to click a little Earthquake here, see how much damage I can get. Bastiodon is not great in terms of offense, and this thing's pretty damn thick in terms of defense. So as they just click Shadow Ball again, I'm knocked down about half. Earthquake is just going to barely tickle the little fella, and then I'm like, you know what? there's not really much reason to just stay in here. And I have a little bit of a plan. Main thing I want to do is I want to try to get Hypno in on this matchup, but I don't want to hard switch into it, of course. So first, I decided to bring in the Masquerain. That's just essentially a little death fodder switch in. I grab an Intimidate for no reason, and then I'm just going to head out. But as they go for the Shadow Ball here, by the grace of God, somehow this Masquerain just lives it. We live it with 11. We barely hang on. And now I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I can just grab an Air Slash. I will die next turn. I'll be able to get Hypno in to set up. But I end up getting the flinch on the Air Slash, which is funny because now as I go for another one, that's going to be able to finish it off. And just like that, Masquerain just logs kills when I'm literally trying to get this thing to faint so I can bring in Hypno. Now, that doesn't end up working out, but as they bring in everybody's favorite thing to play against, the freaking Fluttermane comes in, does take Sticky Web, so that tells me I'm going to be faster. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to click Air Slash again. If I can get a flinch again, that would be, you know, that would be fine. This also seems like a decent opportunity to set up Hypno in front of if I can get that Fairy Terra. So I do get the Air Slash flinch, which is hilarious. For some reason, this is like the luckiest Masquerain of all time. I go for another Air Slash here. Sadly, the luck runs out. I don't get another flinch, but actually, that ends up being fine because as they finish me off, down goes the Masquerain. Now I can get a free switch into the Hypno. Now, you may be thinking, why Hypno into Ghost type? And that's because I fully intend to go for the Terra Fairy. I can take a neutral Shadow Ball with my built-in pretty decent Spadef. I should be in a position to then get up a little Nasty Plot. And the fun part is, if it's a modest Fluttermane, I will be faster already, just being max speed, which is not something Hypno should really do most of the time. But with the Sticky Web up at -1 speed, we should be faster. So I go for the Terra Fairy here. This thing is fully baited into just clicking Shadow Ball. And I know that's going to do, honestly, like 30 to 40%. So it does turn out that I am faster. I go for the Nasty Plot here. Double deal special attack. Definitely need all the help you can get. They do just go for that Shadow Ball, throw some balls at the old face, and it doesn't do much, especially after leftovers. Hypno is over here feeling pink and feeling ready to roll here. So what's also great about this situation is that since it's so low, I can actually finish this thing off with a Trailblaze, which is fantastic because now a +1 speed paired with that Sticky Web, anything even Choice Scarfed in the back is not going to be able to outspeed the Hypno. So I go ahead and blaze a trail right in its face. And now the Hypno is finally in prime form here. So as they've got some threats left, we got some work to do. But after some leftovers and such, we're out here, we're feeling healthy and fast, and at least I have one Nasty Plot, so you know, it could be better, could be worse. So as they end up bringing in the Screamtail, bad thing about Screamtail is you never know what this bastard's gonna do. Is it gonna be screens? Is it gonna be like a Perish set? I have no idea, but what I do know is my ass is gonna go for another Nasty Plot. I'm feeling relatively safe. There's not much in terms of coverage this thing can have to knock me out here, so a Nasty Plot play seems relatively safe. I can then go for as they just click Play Rough. Does get a little bit of a chip damage, but it's not really gonna make a difference. But now with 2 Nasty Plots, we are officially thinking thoughts nastier than you can even comprehend. And while I know even with that, a Dazzling Gleam has a shot to knock this thing out depending, it would be really nice if I could get a kill here. It turns out freaking Louis does just barely hang on because that's what Screamtails do. And as they just go for another Play Rough there, their biggest damage, we're able to live. And the best part is that chip doesn't really even make a difference on Hypno. We're officially boosted up to the point where I'm feeling confident, barring any crazy Terras. We should be in a great spot. They don't have any priority. The best thing they would have would be like Mach Punch with the Pomot, but that's not going to quite cut it. So I can go for one more Dazzling Gleam here. That is going to take care of the Jigglypuff with the Wicked Haircut. And now we just get to see if they do have a stopper for the biggest, pinkest Hypno in all of the land. This buddy did not wake up today expecting to be, you know, pressured by Hypno, but sometimes that's the way it goes. So as they bring in the Pomot here, the best thing is, even if they had Focus Sash, it is broken by the Stealth Rock there. It takes some Sticky Web, and again, at +1, I'm faster than everything here. I can go for a Psychic. If they have a crazy Terra, I click Psychic just in case they're expecting the Gleam. Regardless, though, with 2 Nasty Plots, they don't go for any Terra. They can't really Mach Punch. That is just going to straight up destroy fake-ass Fighting Pikachu over there. And at this point, they have 1 Mon left, being the Garchomp. So, of course, Garchomp always puts pressure on potentially being Terra Steel, which would not be good in this situation. However, if it was Terra Steel, surely they would have gone into that earlier and it'd been a nice little way to handle Hypno here. But as it comes in, take some Sticky Web. Again, the web support is definitely Hypno's best friend over here. Nothing like your enemies just getting tied up in some webs. It's just easier for the napping. Now, I do go for the Dazzling Gleam here. Turns out they are going to end up busting out the Terra. I'm like, if you have Terra Steel, why go do it earlier? Turns out, though, they're just going to go Terra Ground. And your boosted up Earthquakes aren't going to make a difference if you just die first. Now, as I've got +4, while Hypno's not the hardest hitter, in the box. A Terra boosted critical hit Dazzling Gleam is going to be able to finish off the Chomp, and that is extremely satisfying. So nothing like a little Hypno body bag to get us going. And also, why is Hypno so large? The thing is massive. I never realized Buddy was an absolute unit like that. So that's going to do it for game one. Hypno is fun, and it theoretically can work as a fast sweeper. And while it's not easy, it can work, all right? Trust me. Now, that's going to bring us into game number 2, where, look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, go ahead and do me a favor, hit that like button. It really does help out the channel. And here we've got a really interesting game against a really interesting team. Shout out to Buddy's team over there. Let's go ahead and just jump into the match. All right, so this time my opponent decides to lead off with the unexpected Altaria. Cloudboy comes in looking like a Q-tip, and I have myself a Landorus here. Now, at lead Altaria, I don't know what this thing's up to, but I feel like it's up to no good. Surely there's some shenanigans here. I'm going to end up going for the taunt because I'm kind of thinking turn 1 Will-O-Wisp or something of the sort, and I wanted to scout out a little bit here. Now, it turns out they end up going for the Fire Spin, so that's going to lock me in, and I'm thinking, what, Perish Song? Question mark? It's interesting, but with the taunt, it can't go for that. I figure they probably end up switching. At this point, I'm best off just going for U-turn. As much as I want to get up my Stealth Rock here, I figure if I can just get early momentum, I might be in a nice spot. Now, they end up going into the N-Mega. They want to bring it in before the Stealth Rock comes out, and that is fine with me. I go for that U-turn, and now I can bring in, a matchup of whatever I want against the thing. So this team that I'm working with, a little bit different than the first time. I have some interesting fellas. Now, I decide, as I'm looking at it here, I'm just going to go into freaking Swalot. Now, this is a very interesting Swalot. The main thing is, unless it has the psychic coverage, which not all Yanmega are going to, I figure I'm pretty free to go for a Stuffed Cheeks here. Now, it does turn out, however, yeah, they do have the psychic, and that's going to bring me down to 5, which Swalot's ass somehow hangs on. It is going to end up activating my Starf Berry, which doubles my defense before I get my Stuffed Cheeks off. I was really just trying to bait a freaking switch there. I was like, either this Yanmega's a Throat Spray set with Bug Buzz or something like that. Regardless, I thought I was going to be scared of Swalot for some reason. Instead, I have no reason to really save Swalot at this range, so I let it go down. Now, the Psychic is going to be able to take me out, and as I'm looking at it here, I'm like, that's unfortunate. It's continuing to boost some speed over there. I figure it's probably heavy-duty boots, but not exactly sure. But honestly, as I'm looking at it here, that does kind of feel like Specs damage, but Swalot's not really... Yeah, it's gotta be Specs, right? I figure also, as they're locked into a non-stab Psychic, surely, Dragapult can come in, get up a Light Screen, and then be able to take another one. Psychic does do a huge chunk, though, and as I do get up my Light Screen, I'm looking at this opportunity like, you know what, this is perfect. Considering it's locked into that into the Psychic, I can now go into the Hypno. It can't click a Bug Buzz, and especially being behind a Light Screen, taking a not very effective Psychic is going to do nothing against the Hypno. And honestly, Hypno's setup looks really good in this matchup if I can get it going. So they do just go for the Psychic. It basically heals Homegirl, and we're feeling pretty good with our weird little furry scarf, and we're just vibing over here. You got to admit, Hypno does have a sick shiny. Shipmon be damned, you got to admit, it does have that going for it. So at this point, I am just going to go ahead and click a Nasty Plot. Surely they end up swapping out here. They do. Spexion Mega has no business staying in, and I get myself a position to set up a free Nasty Plot, which is great, because as they bring in Gastrodon, this is kind of the exact type of Mon that Hypno's going to do well against. Well, it's probably especially defensive Gastrodon if they end up swapping it in here. I get up that Nasty Plot. I'm chilling at full health, and the best part about Gastrodon in today's day and age, it cannot go for a Toxic, and that's kind of the best thing it could do here. So, while it has no real business to do damage against me, I'm going to take this opportunity to capitalize as much as I can, grab another Nasty Plot here, and as they go for the spikes, I figure, perfect. I've got him right where I want him with the Hypno. I'm now at +4 on the special attack. All I really need at this point is a nice little Trailblaze. And then with that boost to speed, max speed Hypno is going to be outspeeding a lot. So I blaze a trail right on the snail, like I'm Dr. Seuss out here. They continue to set up spikes. They got 2 layers of spikes out here. Now, while the spikes will be helpful for the late game, it doesn't matter if they can't get through the Hypno. And I'm now at +1 speed, +4 special attack. I figure now I can just go ahead and Psychic here. Depending on how this thing's built, I can either grab a knockout or, again, it can't really touch me. So I go for the Psychic. It does end up living. Max special defense is going to be helpful there. Now, as they just click the Earth Power, though, that's not really going to do much. Now, at this point, I'm staring at a Gastrodon that can't really do much to me. I'm like, should I go for another Nasty Plot? I'm looking at it thinking +4. theoretically should do the job. Honestly, I'm feeling like I'm pretty confident in that. Just 2 nasty plots is all I probably really need. And I do want to just go for another Trailblaze here, because now with my speed doubled, I'm surely faster than everything they've got. So down goes the Gastrodon. Should I have nasty plotted to +6? Honestly, probably. I'm feeling like immediately in the moment, I'm like, I don't know, I should have probably just capitalized on just maxing this thing out. But sometimes I feel like getting greedy just doesn't end up being worth it. It was probably a safe opportunity, but still, I'm pretty confident that with just a couple plots, Hypno's in a great spot here. So in comes the Dedenne. Sometimes you got to respect the fact that bro's trying to avoid a divorce. I've been there. I go for a Psychic. It's going to be able to knock it out. No Focus Sash or anything. Dedenne goes down. Boom. Just a couple of quick little KOs for the Hypno. And it really still does feel like they don't have much as an answer to a fella who's now fast and plotted the hell up. So at this point, they now bring in freaking Q-Tip. Now, as I'm looking at this matchup, I'm thinking surely a Dazzling Gleam at +4 should be enough to knock the Altaria out. I could potentially go for the Terra Fairy. I opt to not. Now, the reason for that is because I really didn't want to give the Arbok an opportunity to defensive Terra and then knock me out with a Gunk Shot, but it turns out it doesn't grab the knockout. I figured it was probably a safe bet to just grab a kill there. I should have gone for the other plot, dude. I messed up by not getting to +6, and now I paid the price in being Perish Song. So now I am absolutely on a timer. I figure I can just finish it off with the Psychic, however, but it does have the Protect. This thing's moveset is just full Perish Trapper and absolutely evil. I could have easily gotten around this thing by either getting up another nasty plot earlier or going for that Terra Fairy. I just figured I overestimated the Hypno. I'm not gonna lie. That happens, especially you're working with a dude that's got 73 base special attack. Wildly unfortunate. Now, while I am under the Perish Song, I still am in an opportunity here to where they're gonna have to roll for a second Protect if that's what they want to do. But I should be able to knock out the Altaria. They do roll for the second Protect. It doesn't happen, luckily, and I can finish it off with the Psychic. So while we're poking holes in the team with the Hypno, I'm still feeling pretty good. Now, while I've got 1 turn left on my Perish, I have kind of a decision to make on whether or not I want to swap this thing out and save it, or just have 1 more huge damage attack left in me, and they've got half the team left. So as they end up bringing in the Minior here, this is where things get a little interesting, because now I've got a big decision. Now, Minior, in this situation, it's always going to be clicking Shell Smash here, right? And it either is going to be White Herb or it's going to be Focus Sash. I decide to stay in and go for the Psychic, because if I let this thing Shell Smash for free without any repercussions, I'm going to be in a little bit of a bad spot. Now, it turns out it is going to be Focus Sash, and that is a little bit unfortunate. Should have opted to get my Stealth Rock up earlier. However, now this thing is free to go for that Shell Smash. Now, of course, that's going to use up my last Perish turn while, I knocked down the Minior. I was in a position there where I didn't really have much to switch into this thing. Honestly, the only real option I had to hard switch in would have been something like Landorus, but then Landorus' only attacking moves that I have are Earthquake and knockoffs. I was at a spot where I really didn't have the option to switch there. I figured it was the safest bet just to go for the damage. Down goes the Hypno, and now I gotta figure out what I can do against this thing. With a Shell Smash, it's faster than the entire squad, and while I can go into the Landorus here, I can at least get an Intimidate. That should allow me to potentially take an Acrobatics, but the best part is, while they have to go for an Acrobatics as their highest damage most likely, I'm Rocky Helmet, so that should pick off their last HP, and I can freely just click Stealth Rock here. Now, they do go for the Acrobatics. I'm able to live. Shout out to the Intimidate. The Helmet's going to finish off the little Meteor, and I can freely get up my Stealth Rock, which is going to be great for things specifically like that Yanmega in the back. So they've got 2 Mons left at this point. It's going to be the Yanmega, and then they have the Arbok. So I set up my little Stealth Rock there for free, and now we get to see what they want to do. So they end up bringing in the Yanmega first. It's going to take that big 50% from the Stealth Rock. Not really that big of a deal. But in the moment here, I'm thinking I should conserve the Landorus. It's just going to be my best way to hit the Arbok in the back with that super effective ground hit. And also I figure what could be kind of cool in this spot is to go into the Araquanid. Now we know this thing is choice spec. So the thing was here, I bring in Araquanid. I know I take a decent chunk from the spikes. And as they go for a Bug Buzz, I was hoping it was going to knock me out down to a quarter HP. Now, as I leave it with 50, that puts me in a very much worse position because that's not quite going to get me in range to activate my Custat Berry to move first. I need to be at about 44 HP, I believe, to be able to get that priority off, and I miscalculated a bit there, not going to lie. Now I pay the price in having to essentially sack the Dragapult. I go into this thing just because it's the most expendable at this point. It's not going to outspeed Yanmega after boosts, and I figure whatever. I sack the Dragapult, it's fine. And the good part is that at least now with those spikes up, I can go back into the Arachnid, get that Custap Berry off in a very satisfying fashion, and then just finish it off with a Surf. So as I bring in the Arachnid here, I'm still not necessarily super worried about just the Arbok being the final mon in the back. So I come in, I take some spikes, Dewey is hanging on by a thread, but that's exactly what we need because now, even though this thing's speed boosted the hell up, I can just go for a Surf here. And there's nothing quite like a little surprise speedy Custap Berry to pick off a fast boy. So I go for the Surf. It is going to be enough to knock out the Yanmega, and now we've gotten ourselves in a spot where it's just us versus the Arbok. And as I'm looking at it here, it might just depend. It's all going to come down to what this Arbok wants to do. But I felt like I'm in a position here where they probably are going to be some type of setup with something like Coil, right? They come in, they intimidate, doesn't really matter. Good part is being this low, I can go for an Endeavor. If they opt to go for a Coil, they're now going to have to be knocked down to my level of HP, which is hanging on by a little bit of a thread here. Now, they do go for the Terra. They're going to pull out the Terra Dragon. They probably just want to try to take a Surf as best as possible. But as I'm locked and loaded with an Endeavor, the Terra Dragon there is honestly a little bit frightening. Because as they do go for that free Coil, as I'm able to get off an Endeavor, going to bring this thing down into easily killable range. With that Coil boost and the Terra Dragon, that means only one thing. That means that this fella will definitely be clicking a Scale Shot. And now I've got kind of a tough decision to make here. So as they go for a Scale Shot, I know they're going to be able to finish me off with that. That 10% chance to miss, I decide to take it. Nope, it does connect. It's going to finish off the Arachnid. I have no real option to switch there. And I let him take care of the Spider. But now, as I'm looking at this thing, it gets that speed boost from the Scale Shot, right? And I'm feeling like I'm a little bit far worse off than I kind of thought I was going to be. Now, at +1 speed, Arbok is exactly as fast as Blaziken. The problem with my Blaziken is it is not a plus speed nature. So if this thing is jolly, even if I can get a speed boost protect, I'm not going to be faster than it. But I figure my best course of action is this. I can go into the Landorus. What this does is it knocks down and Intimidate. It gets it down to just neutral attack, right? It does no longer have that Coil boost from that. And I'm looking at it, my best chance is going to now be to hope that Blaziken can take an attack. Now they go for another Scale Shot. That's going to put it to +2 speed. Going to just guarantee that even if I get a speed boost protect off, it's going to be faster. But I figured my best kind of odds of winning here is getting that thing down to neutral attack. And as it continues to get that Scale Shot boost, not really going to make a difference. But now it comes down to Blaziken. And now I know that Arbok with just no attack boost, even if it's got that Earthquake, I've got a pretty solid shot, I think, of being able to live that, even with the 2 layers of spikes. Now, after some hindsight damage calcing, it turns out it is a 68% chance that this thing knocks me out with an Earthquake. They bust out the Earthquake after the outspeed, and down goes the Blaziken. The spikes were all the difference. Had they not gotten those 2 layers of spikes up, Blaziken would have been able to take it. I absolutely fumbled the bag in the late game. Shout out to my opponent for being able to come through with that late game Arbok. And that was pretty wild. I absolutely made a lot of misplays in this match. I'm not even going to lie. That loss is absolutely on me. But what fun would it be if I'm making mistakes out here. But moral of the story is I'm over here just messing around and having a good time. In the moment, there were certain misplays that I could have easily avoided to turn this match around. Thinking about it, here's a couple things I could have done. First of all, I should have absolutely terrored Hypno versus the Altaria. I thought with 2 nasty plots, I was going to be easily in range. I was thinking, surely no, the way this thing's just max HP, max special defense, calm to be able to live that. Turns out it was. I could have gone for the Terra Fairy there to finish that thing off. Now, second of all, what I could have done in hindsight to give myself a little bit of a higher percentage chance would have been gone into, instead of bringing in Landorus to intimidate the Arbok before going into Blaziken, I could have gone into Blaziken protected for my speed boost. We would have both been at +1 speed. The difference was that since I wasn't plus speed nature, I figured they surely have to be jolly. But in a case where if they were adamant, I would have given myself a coin flip 50-50 chance to win the speed tie instead of like the 40% chance to live the Earthquake. But, you know, regardless, it doesn't really matter. I'm over here. I'm having fun. I definitely messed up on that one. But it was a really close game, and I'd rather take a close game like that any day over just some sweep. And I feel like it's probably more fun to watch if you guys see, you know, the situations where I'm not just cleaning things up with body bag sweeps and just... There's definitely times, actually probably just about every match, where I'm probably not making optimal plays, but we're having a good time doing it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate the support, and I will catch you next time. Peace out.